Maya Brooks stared out the viewport as the transport ship approached Nexus Prime. The massive space station stretched across the darkness like a small metal moon. Lights dotted its surface, and ships of every imaginable design moved in carefully controlled patterns around its docking bays. This was the Galactic Military Academy, the most prestigious combat training facility in known space, and Maya was terrified, not that she would ever admit it out loud. She stood with her hands clasped behind her back, her posture military perfect, her face calm. But inside, her heart hammered against her ribs. 3 years ago, humanity had made first contact with the Galactic Coalition. 3 years ago, Earth learned it was not alone in the universe. And now, Maya was one of 5 humans selected to attend the academy that trained the galaxy's finest warriors. The transport shuddered as it entered the station's docking bay. Through the viewport, Maya could see other cadets gathering on the arrival platform. Her breath caught in her throat. She had seen aliens before, of course. Earth had hosted diplomatic missions, and holographic broadcasts showed coalition species regularly. But seeing them in person was different. A creature that looked like a walking tank, easily 12 feet tall and covered in rocky gray plates, stomped past the viewport. Something that resembled a floating jellyfish drifted through the air, its tentacles glowing with bioluminescent patterns. A group of reptilian beings with 4 arms each practiced combat, moves in a corner of the bay, their movements precise and deadly. "We look like children next to them," a voice said beside her. Maya turned to see Jake Murphy, one of her fellow human cadets. He was a good soldier, trained in hand-to-hand combat and tactical operations. Back on Earth, he had been considered exceptionally strong. Here, he looked small and fragile. "We're not children," Maya replied quietly. "We're humans." "That counts for something," Jake snorted. "Does it? Look at them, Maya. We're going to get crushed in training." Before Maya could respond, the transport's boarding ramp extended with a hydraulic hiss. It was time. She squared her shoulders, took a deep breath, and walked down the ramp. Jake followed, along with the 3 other human cadets, Lisa Grant, Kevin Stone, and Pete Henderson. The docking bay was enormous, designed to accommodate species of vastly different sizes. The ceiling stretched high above, and the floor was marked with lines and colors Maya didn't recognize, probably navigation markers for different species. The air was cooler than she expected and smelled faintly metallic. As the human group descended the ramp, conversations around them died. Hundreds of alien eyes turned to stare. Maya heard whispers in languages her translation implant struggled to process. She caught fragments. Small, weak, fragile, deathworld. That last word made her frown. Deathworld. She had heard the term before. Apparently, in galactic classification systems, Earth was considered a high-danger planet. The Coalition scientists had been shocked by Earth's aggressive ecosystem, its extreme weather, and its deadly microorganisms. Most Coalition species came from gentler worlds. A massive figure approached them, each footstep making the deck plates vibrate. Maya tilted her head back to look up at a reptilian alien who towered over her. His scales were deep green with black patterns, and his eyes were golden with vertical pupils. He wore what appeared to be an instructor's uniform, marked with symbols Maya recognized as denoting high rank. "Human cadets," the alien said, his voice deep and rumbling. The translation implant in Maya's ear rendered his words in English. "I am Commander Thexelar, Senior Combat Instructor. Follow me to orientation." He didn't wait for a response, simply turned and walked away. His long legs covered distance quickly, and the humans had to jog to keep up. Around them, alien cadets whispered and pointed. Some looked curious. Others looked amused. A few looked hostile. They followed Thexelar through corridors that seemed designed for beings much larger than humans. Doorways loomed overhead. Ceiling lights were positioned for taller species, leaving shadows at human eye level. Everything about this place reminded Maya that humans were not the standard here. They were the exception. The oddity. Finally, they reached a large amphitheater. Hundreds of cadets were already seated on benches that adjusted automatically to accommodate different body sizes. The humans found seats near the back, and Maya noticed the bench beneath her shifting and reshaping itself to fit her smaller frame. Commander Thexelar stood at the front of the amphitheater, waiting as the last cadets filed in. When everyone was seated, he began speaking. "Welcome to the Galactic Military Academy," he said. His voice carried easily through the space. "You represent 300 species from across Coalition space. You are here because your worlds believe you have potential, but potential means nothing without discipline, training, and strength. His golden eyes swept across the assembled cadets, pausing briefly on the human section. Maya felt the weight of that gaze. Many of you come from warrior cultures, Thexler continued. You have trained your entire lives for combat. You believe yourself strong. He paused. Some of you are wrong. This academy will reveal your weaknesses. It will push you beyond your limits. And some of you will fail. Murmurs rippled through the cadets. Thexler raised one clawed hand for silence. The training begins tomorrow. You will be tested in combat, tactics, endurance, and leadership. You will compete against each other. You will learn to fight alongside species you have never encountered, and you will discover whether you truly have what it takes to serve the coalition. The orientation continued for another hour. Different instructors explained the academy's rules, its training facilities, and its expectations. Maya tried to focus, but she was acutely aware of the stares from other cadets. She was aware of how small she and her fellow humans looked in this space. When orientation finally ended, cadets began filing out. Maya stood, her muscles stiff from sitting in one position for so long. A shadow fell over her, and she looked up to see an insectoid alien studying her with multifaceted eyes. It had 4 arms, each ending in clawed appendages, and its body was covered in a chitinous exoskeleton that gleamed under the lights. You are human, the alien said. Its mandibles clicked as it spoke. Yes, Maya replied carefully. I am Krell of the Zarthan. I have heard of your species. They say you come from a deathworld. Krell's head tilted. But you look weak. Soft skin, small size. How do you survive on a dangerous planet? Maya met Krell's gaze steadily. We adapt, we endure. We don't give up. Krell made a sound that might have been laughter. We shall see. Tomorrow's combat assessment will be interesting. The alien turned and walked away, its 4 arms moving in an unsettling, coordinated pattern. Jake appeared at Maya's shoulder. That was ominous. It's fine, Maya said, though her stomach was tight with anxiety. We'll show them what humans can do. But as they walked back to their assigned quarters, Maya couldn't shake her doubts. The other cadets were bigger, stronger, faster. Many had natural weapons, claws, armor, venom. Humans had nothing but their training and determination. Would that be enough? That night, lying in her bunk in the human cadets' shared quarters, Maya stared at the ceiling. Through the small window, she could see stars. Somewhere out there was Earth, her home impossibly far away. She thought about her family, her friends, everyone who was counting on her to succeed. Tomorrow would be the combat assessment. Tomorrow, she would have to prove that humans belonged here. Maya closed her eyes and focused on her breathing, a meditation technique she had learned years ago. She thought about her training, thousands of hours spent learning to fight, to endure, to push through pain and exhaustion. She thought about human history, about warriors who had faced impossible odds and somehow prevailed. She was human. She was a survivor from a death world, and tomorrow she would show them exactly what that meant. Morning came too quickly. Maya woke to an alarm that sounded like nothing on Earth, a series of harmonic tones that made her teeth ache. Around her, the other human cadets stirred in their bunks. Nobody spoke. They all knew what today meant, the combat assessment. Every cadet had to demonstrate their fighting abilities in front of the instructors and their fellow students. It was designed to establish baseline capabilities, to show the instructors what they were working with. Maya had faced evaluations before, but never like this. Never surrounded by aliens who already thought humans were weak. She dressed in the standard training uniform, a flexible black material that adjusted to her body. The uniform was designed to accommodate different species, and on Maya's human frame it fit perfectly. She tied her dark hair back in a tight bun, splashed cold water on her face, and tried to calm her racing heart. In the cafeteria, the humans sat together at one table. Around them, aliens of every description ate breakfast. Some consumed foods that looked normal enough. Others ate things that made Maya's stomach turn. One species appeared to absorb nutrients directly through their skin by sitting in shallow pools of glowing liquid. I can't eat, Lisa said, pushing her food around her plate. She was pale, her hand shaking slightly. I keep thinking about those creatures we saw yesterday. How are we supposed to compete with them? We do our best, Kevin said quietly. He was the oldest of the human cadets, a veteran of Earth's military conflicts. That's all anyone can ask. But Pete shook his head. Our best might not be good enough. Did you see the Gorvan cadets? They're like living tanks. And those insect things with 4 arms? How do you fight something with 4 arms? Jake stabbed at his food. Maybe we shouldn't be here. Maybe Earth sent us too soon. Stop, Maya said, her voice firm. The others looked at her. We were chosen for a reason. Earth's military command wouldn't have sent us if they thought we'd fail. Yes, the other species look intimidating, but we have our own advantages. Like what? Pete asked. Maya hesitated. What advantages did humans have? They weren't the strongest. They weren't the fastest. They didn't have natural weapons or armor, but there had to be something. The coalition had accepted humans as members. That had to mean something. We're adaptable, she finally said. Humans have survived on Earth for hundreds of thousands of years. We've lived in deserts, jungles, frozen wastelands everywhere. We're survivors. That counts for something. The others didn't look convinced, but they finished their breakfast in silence. The combat assessment took place in the Academy's main training hall, a massive space with high ceilings and walls made of some kind of reinforced composite material. Equipment lined the walls: weapons, training dummies, strength testing machines. In the center of the hall was an open area where cadets would demonstrate their abilities. Hundreds of students filled the observation areas, sitting on benches or hovering in the air, depending on their species. The human cadets found a spot near the back. Maya's heart pounded as she looked at the other students. They were so big, so strong-looking. So confident, Commander Thexler entered the hall, followed by several other instructors. He moved to the center of the testing area, his massive form commanding attention. The conversations died down. Cadets, Thexler announced, his voice carrying through the hall. Today you will demonstrate your combat capabilities. Each of you will be called forward to strike the testing wall. He gestured to a section of wall marked with sensors. The wall will measure the force of your strike. This gives us baseline data for your training program. He paused, his golden eyes scanning the assembled cadets. Remember, this is not a competition. You are being evaluated against your own potential, not against each other. Strength comes in many forms. But despite his words, Maya could see the way some cadets were already sizing each other up. This might not officially be a competition, but everyone would be comparing results. The demonstrations began. Thexler called names in an order Maya didn't understand. A massive Gorvan cadet went first, lumbering up to the wall. The creature was 12 feet tall and looked like it was made of solid rock. When it struck the wall, the impact sounded like thunder. The sensors flashed, displaying numbers that meant nothing to Maya but caused impressed murmurs from the alien cadets. More students followed. Krell, the 4-armed insectoid, delivered a complex combination strike that left visible dents in the testing wall. A serpentine alien with scales like metal armor struck with its tail, creating a boom that echoed through the hall. A species that looked like animated crystal hit the wall with a harmonic frequency that made it vibrate and crack. Each demonstration was impressive. Each one showcased abilities that seemed beyond human capability. Maya watched, and her confidence drained away with each passing minute. How could humans compete with this? They were just flesh and bone. No armor, no extra limbs, no special abilities. The human names were called near the end. Jake went first. He approached the testing wall, and Maya heard whispers ripple through the alien cadets. They were laughing. Not loudly, but she could hear it. The soft sounds of amusement, of derision. Jake struck the wall with everything he had. His punch was good, textbook form from years of training, but compared to what had come before, it looked weak. The sensors flashed numbers that were clearly lower than previous results. The whispers grew louder. Jake returned to the human section, his face red with embarrassment. Lisa went next, then Kevin, then Pete. Each time the results were similar. Solid punches by human standards, but nothing impressive compared to the alien cadets. The whispers turned to open laughter in some sections. Then Thexlar called Maya's name. She stood, her legs feeling weak. Every eye in the hall turned to her. She walked to the testing area, and the walk felt like it took forever. She could feel the weight of all those stares. She could hear the whispers. So small. Fragile looking. Why are they even here? Maya reached the testing wall and turned to face Thexlar. The massive reptilian instructor looked down at her, and his expression was not kind. His lips pulled back slightly, revealing sharp teeth in what might have been a smile but looked more like a sneer. Human Cadet Maya Brooks, he said, his voice loud enough for everyone to hear. Please demonstrate your species' combat capability. There was something in his tone. Something mocking. Maya felt heat rise in her cheeks. Strike the wall with your full strength, Texlar continued. He crossed his arms over his broad chest. Try not to injure yourself. I know humans have such delicate bones. Laughter erupted from sections of the observation area. Not everyone laughed, but enough did, enough to make it clear what they thought of humans, what they thought of her. Texlar's golden eyes glittered with amusement. Whenever you're ready, cadet. We haven't got all day. Maya turned to face the wall, her hands clenched into fists. She could feel her heart racing, feel the anger building in her chest. They thought she was weak. They thought humans were a joke. They thought Earth had sent them children to play at being warriors. She took a breath and centered herself. Her instructors on Earth had taught her to channel emotion, to use it rather than let it control her. She thought about every human who had fought and bled throughout history. She thought about her species, survivors of a harsh world who had clawed their way to the stars. She thought about the wall in front of her, and she thought about breaking it. Maya shifted her stance, feet shoulder-width apart. She rolled her shoulders, feeling the muscles loosen. Behind her, she heard Texlar say something else, another mocking comment. The laughter continued. She tuned it all out. There was only her body, her training, and the wall. Maya took one more breath. Then she struck. The punch started in Maya's legs. Her muscles tensed, driving power up through her body. Her hips rotated, adding torque. Her core engaged, transferring energy. Her shoulder extended, her arm straightening like a piston. And all of that force, all of that carefully channeled kinetic energy, focused into the reinforced knuckles of her right hand. Her fist hit the wall. The sound was like an explosion. Not a simple impact, but a genuine boom that echoed through the entire training hall. For a split second, nothing happened. Then the wall seemed to shudder. Cracks appeared at the point of impact. Not small cracks, but massive fissures that spread outward like lightning bolts frozen in place. The cracks extended up, down, sideways, creating a spiderweb pattern that covered 15 feet of wall surface. Chunks of the composite material, the same material that had withstood strikes from species twice Maya's size, broke free and fell to the floor with heavy thuds. An alarm started blaring. Red lights flashed along the wall's edge. Somewhere in the Academy's system, impact sensors that had never registered such force from a hand strike were screaming warnings. The training hall went silent, completely, absolutely silent. Hundreds of aliens stared at Maya, stared at the shattered wall, stared at the human who stood there, calmly shaking out her hand. Maya looked at her knuckles. They were red, already starting to bruise. It hurt, a sharp pain that radiated up her arm, but nothing was broken. Her bones held. They always did. Human bones were denser than they looked, evolved to withstand the impacts of a species that had once hunted prey by chasing it until it collapsed from exhaustion. She turned to face Commander Texlar. The massive reptilian instructor's expression had changed completely. His golden eyes were wide, his mouth slightly open. For the first time since Maya had met him, he looked shocked. Actually shocked, is that sufficient? Maya asked quietly. Texlar didn't respond. He was staring at the wall, at the destruction one small human had caused. Around the training hall, the silence was finally breaking. Whispers started, then grew louder. But these weren't mocking whispers. These were whispers of disbelief, of confusion, of fear. An alien instructor rushed forward, some kind of scanner in their appendages. They aimed it at the wall, then at Maya, then back at the wall. The scanner made distressed sounds, displaying readings that made the instructor's eyes widen even further. "Commander," the instructor said, their voice shaking. "The impact force registered at 3.7 kilonewtons. That's impossible for an unarmed strike from a being her size. The sensors must be malfunctioning. Test them," Texlar said, his voice rough. "Now." The instructor ran a diagnostic on the wall's sensors while Maya stood there, waiting. The other human cadets had moved forward, standing at the edge of the testing area. Jake's face showed pure amazement. Lisa looked like she might cry from relief. Kevin and Pete were grinning, the diagnostic completed. The instructor looked at their scanner, then at Texlar. "The sensors are functioning perfectly, Commander. The reading is accurate." Texlar turned slowly to look at Maya. His expression was carefully neutral now, but she could see the way his claws flexed, the way his tail moved in agitation. He was recalculating everything he thought he knew about humans. "Explain," he said simply. Maya took a breath. "Humans evolved on a high-gravity world, Commander. Our bones are dense. Our muscles are designed for explosive power. We're pursuit predators, Our bodies are built to run long distances, to absorb impacts, and to keep fighting even when injured. She paused. We might look fragile, but we're tougher than we appear. Another instructor stepped forward, a being that looked like a floating collection of geometric shapes. When it spoke, its voice came from everywhere at once. If one human can do this, can all of them? Thexler's eyes narrowed. He looked at the other human cadets. You four, test the wall, now. Jake went first. He approached the wall, set his stance, and kicked. The impact wasn't as dramatic as Maya's punch, but it was still impressive. A combat dummy designed to withstand strikes from large aliens toppled over. Its base cracked. The sensors flashed numbers that made the instructors exchange glances. Lisa went next, delivering an elbow strike that shattered a training target. Kevin's punch left a dent in a piece of equipment meant for Gorvan strength training. Pete's kick fractured a floor panel that was supposed to be indestructible. The training hall erupted into chaos. Alien cadets crowded forward, trying to get a better look. Instructors shouted orders, trying to maintain some semblance of control. Medical staff rushed in with scanners, trying to check the humans for injuries and looking confused when they found only minor bruising. Through it all, Commander Thexlar stood motionless, watching. His expression was unreadable, but Maya could sense the gears turning in his mind. He had spent decades training warriors from across the galaxy. He thought he understood combat, understood strength. And in one morning, 5 humans had upended everything he thought he knew. Finally, Thexlar raised one clawed hand. His voice boomed across the hall. Silence! The noise died down immediately. Every eye turned to the commander. Classes are suspended for the rest of the day, Thexlar announced. All instructors report to the administrative center immediately. Human cadets remain here. Do not leave this hall. His golden eyes fixed on Maya. We have much to discuss. The alien cadets filed out slowly, many of them still staring at the humans. Some looked impressed. Some looked frightened. A few looked angry, as if the humans had cheated somehow. Krell, the four-armed insectoid, stopped near Maya. I said yesterday would be interesting, Krell said. His mandibles clicked in what might have been respect. I did not know how interesting. You are full of surprises, human. My name is Maya, she replied. Maya, Krell repeated as if testing the name. I look forward to training with you, if the instructors allow it. He left with the others, his forearms moving in that unsettling, coordinated way. Soon only the 5 humans remained in the massive training hall. For a long moment, they just looked at each other. Then Jake started laughing. It was a slightly hysterical sound, the kind of laughter that comes from relief and disbelief mixed together. Did we just break the galaxy's most prestigious military academy? He asked. I think we broke their understanding of humans, Lisa said. She was looking at her hands like she had never seen them before. I've done that elbow strike 1,000 times in training. I never thought about how hard I was actually hitting. Kevin walked over to examine the wall Maya had struck. The cracks were even more extensive up close. Earth's gravity is stronger than most coalition worlds, he said thoughtfully. We always knew that, but I don't think anyone realized what that meant for our physical capabilities. Pete was quiet, staring at the floor panel he had cracked. Do you think they're scared of us now? Maya considered the question. She thought about the looks on the alien faces, the fear she had seen in some of their eyes. Maybe, she admitted. But fear isn't respect. We need to show them we're not a threat. We're just different. Different, Jake repeated. That's one word for it. Maya, you shattered a wall that was designed to withstand impacts from species that outweigh you by hundreds of pounds. That's not just different. That's terrifying. Before Maya could respond, a group of instructors returned to the hall. They were led by a being Maya hadn't seen before, someone who wore robes marked with symbols of authority. Behind them came what looked like scientists carrying scanners and data pads. The robed figure approached the humans. When it spoke, its voice was surprisingly gentle. I am Administrator Velcor. I oversee all training at this academy. What happened here today is unprecedented. We need to understand your species better, to ensure we can train you properly without causing harm to yourselves or others. We're not trying to cause trouble, Maya said carefully. I understand, Velcor replied, but you must understand our position. The Galactic Coalition has trained warriors for thousands of years. We thought we understood the limits of biological capability. Today you showed us we were wrong. We need to know what else we don't know about humans. The scientists moved forward, scanners humming. They were polite, asking permission before scanning the humans from various angles. They took measurements, tested reflexes, asked questions about Earth's gravity, about human evolution, about their training methods. One scientist, a delicate-looking being with crystalline features, seemed particularly fascinated. "Your bone density is remarkable," they said, studying their scanner. "And your muscle fiber composition, it's unlike anything in our database. You have both slow twitch and fast twitch muscles in ratios we've never seen. How is this possible?" Maya tried to explain about human evolution, about how their ancestors had been persistence hunters, how humans could run for hours, tracking prey until it collapsed from exhaustion, how they needed to be durable enough to survive falls, fights, and injuries that would kill other species. The crystalline scientist's expression, if it could be called that, showed something like wonder. "You're survivors. True survivors. Your entire species is designed to endure." "That's one way to put it," Maya agreed. The testing went on for hours. The scientists worked through the afternoon and into the evening. They scanned the humans from every angle, tested their reflexes, measured their strength, and asked endless questions. Maya's head was spinning from trying to explain things about human biology that she had always taken for granted. One particularly interesting discovery came when they tested the humans' cardiovascular systems. The scientists were amazed at how efficiently human hearts pumped blood, how quickly humans could recover from exertion. A test that involved running on a machine designed for much larger species left the alien scientists stunned. The humans barely seemed winded after exercises that would have exhausted most coalition species. "Your endurance is extraordinary," the crystalline scientists said, shaking their head in disbelief. "Most species can operate at peak performance for short bursts, then need extensive recovery time. You maintain elevated performance for extended periods. We call it cardio training," Lisa explained. She was slightly out of breath but recovering quickly. "Humans can run for hours if properly trained. Our ancestors used to chase animals until they collapsed from heat exhaustion." The scientist made notes on their data pad. "Fascinating. And terrifying. Your species weaponized persistence itself." Another discovery came during stress response testing. When the scientists simulated a threatening situation, they detected a surge of chemicals in the humans' bloodstreams, adrenaline, cortisol, and other hormones that the coalition had never encountered in such combinations. "What is happening to your body?" an instructor asked Kevin, who was connected to monitoring equipment. "Fight or flight response," Kevin explained. "When humans face danger, our bodies flood with hormones that temporarily increase our strength, speed, and pain tolerance. It's an automatic survival mechanism." The instructor looked at their scanner in disbelief. "You can suppress pain signals? Voluntarily?" "To some extent, yes," Kevin said. "Soldiers are trained to push through injuries. Humans have fought with broken bones, severe wounds, things that should have incapacitated them. We don't stop easily." The room went quiet at that revelation. Maya saw the instructors exchanging glances, saw the way some of them looked at the humans with new wariness. The idea of a species that could choose to ignore their body's warning signals was apparently disturbing to them. As the testing continued, Administrator Velkor spoke quietly with Commander Thexlar in a corner of the hall. Maya couldn't hear their conversation, but she saw Thexlar's body language, the way his tail moved in agitation, the way his claws flexed repeatedly. He was clearly struggling with something. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the testing concluded. Velkor addressed the humans directly. "We have learned much today," the administrator said. "Your species is remarkable in ways we did not anticipate. However, this creates complications for your training. Our standard programs may not be suitable for human physiology. We need time to develop new protocols." "With respect, Administrator," Maya said, "we don't need special treatment. We came here to learn to train alongside the other cadets. We can adapt to your existing programs." Velkor's expression was hard to read, but they seemed to consider this. "Perhaps. But we must also consider the other students. Some may now feel intimidated by humans. Others may feel challenged and wish to test themselves against you. We must be careful to maintain proper training discipline." Before Maya could respond, Commander Thexlar stepped forward. His massive form moved with obvious tension. When he spoke, his voice was formal, almost stiff. "Human cadets, I owe you an apology." The words seemed difficult for him. "I made assumptions about your capabilities based on your appearance. I mocked you in front of your peers. This was unprofessional and disrespectful. I was wrong. The training hall was silent. Maya could tell this was costing Thexlar something, admitting error in front of others. She respected him for it. "Apology accepted, Commander," she said quietly. Thexlar's golden eyes met hers. "I have trained warriors for 50 standard years. I thought I understood combat and strength. Today you taught me that I still have much to learn. For that lesson I am grateful, even if it was humbling." He turned to address all 5 humans. "In my years as an instructor, I have learned that the deadliest warriors are not always the largest or the strongest. Often they are the ones who refuse to quit, who keep fighting when others would surrender. Humans, I believe, have this quality in abundance." Jake looked like he might cry. Lisa was smiling, her earlier fear replaced with something like pride. Kevin and Pete stood straighter, their military bearing more pronounced. "Training will resume tomorrow," Thexlar continued, "but modifications will be made to accommodate human capabilities. We will monitor you closely to ensure training equipment can withstand your strength, and we will educate the other cadets about your species to prevent misunderstandings." Over the following days, the Academy adjusted to having humans among its students. News of the shattered wall spread quickly, becoming something of a legend. The story grew with each retelling, until some versions had Maya punching completely through the wall or destroying half the training hall. The reality was impressive enough. The damaged wall section was left unrepaired, kept as a reminder. A small plaque was installed next to it reading simply, "Human Baseline Assessment Day 1. Some cadets treated it like a shrine. Others avoided it nervously. Maya's relationships with other students evolved. Krell the four-armed insectoid became a genuine friend. He was fascinated by human combat techniques and spent hours asking Maya about Earth's martial arts. In exchange, he taught her about Zarthan fighting styles that utilized all 4 arms simultaneously. "Your species fights with creativity," Krell observed one day during a training session. "You have no natural weapons, so you learn to use everything as a weapon. Your environment, your opponent's strength, even your own body. It is elegant in its brutality. Not all interactions were positive. A group of Gorvan cadets, massive rocky beings who prided themselves on their strength, seemed to take the humans' capabilities as a personal insult. They made comments, issued challenges, tried to intimidate the smaller humans during training exercises. The situation came to a head during a group combat drill. The exercise involved mixed teams competing to complete objectives while fighting off opposing teams. Maya's team included Krell and 2 other aliens. Their opponents included 3 Gorvan cadets led by one named Brektor, who had been particularly hostile toward humans. The drill took place in a simulated urban environment with buildings, barriers, and various obstacles. Teams earned points for completing objectives and eliminating opponents with training weapons that delivered harmless but detectable energy blasts. Brektor's team focused their efforts on Maya specifically. It was clear they wanted to prove that humans weren't as tough as everyone now believed. They were big, strong, and aggressive. Under normal circumstances, they might have overwhelmed her. But Maya had spent weeks training at the academy now. She had learned how to move in the station's gravity, which was slightly lower than Earth's. She had adapted to fighting alongside aliens with different fighting styles, and she had learned something important about Gorvans. They were strong but slow. When Brektor charged at her, Maya didn't try to meet his strength with her own. Instead, she moved. Human agility, human flexibility, human reaction time. She slipped past his grab, struck pressure points she had learned were vulnerable on Gorvan anatomy, and used his own momentum against him. Brektor crashed into a barrier with a sound like an avalanche. His training weapon clattered away. Maya had already moved on, helping Krell take down another opponent. The drill ended with Maya's team victorious. As cadets filed out of the simulation area, Brektor approached Maya. She tensed, expecting hostility. Instead, the massive Gorvan bowed his head slightly. "I underestimated you," he said simply. "This was foolish. You fight with honor and skill." Maya returned the gesture. "You fight with strength and courage. Perhaps we could train together sometime. Learn from each other." Brektor's rocky face creased in what might have been a smile. Perhaps. That evening, the human cadets gathered in their quarters. They had fallen into a routine of meeting each day to discuss training, share experiences, and support each other. Tonight, the mood was celebratory. "Did you see Brektor's face when he realized he couldn't catch Maya?" Jake laughed. "I thought his head was going to crack from shock." The Gorvins aren't bad, Lisa said. They were just scared, having their whole identity challenged, their belief that size equals strength. We showed them different. Kevin nodded thoughtfully. That's what this is really about. Not proving we're better than anyone else, but showing that there are many ways to be strong. The coalition is going to be better for having humans in it. Maya listened to her friends and felt a deep sense of satisfaction. They had come to this academy terrified, convinced they didn't belong. Now just weeks later, they were proving themselves every day, not by dominating others, but by earning genuine respect. The months passed quickly at the academy. Maya threw herself into training with an intensity that impressed even Commander Thexler. She learned combat techniques from a dozen different species, studied tactical theory developed across thousands of years of galactic warfare, and pushed her body to limits she hadn't known existed. The Academy's final examination was legendary. Every cadet who had ever graduated spoke of it with a mixture of pride and lingering anxiety. It was more than just a test of combat skills or tactical knowledge. It was a simulation designed to break students, to push them past their limits and see who would crack under pressure. Teams of 5 cadets would be assigned a mission considered nearly impossible. They would face overwhelming odds, equipment failures, and impossible choices. The simulation was designed so that most teams would fail. The point wasn't to succeed, but to demonstrate how cadets handled failure, stress, and desperate situations. Maya's team was announced 3 days before the examination. She would lead a mixed group. Krell, of course, whose friendship had become one of her anchors at the academy. A Gorvin named Telrock, smaller than most of his species but quick-thinking and tactical. A floating jellyfish-like being called Sin, who could manipulate electromagnetic fields. And, surprisingly, Jake, her fellow human. They spent those 3 days planning, training together, learning each other's capabilities and limitations. Thexler observed their preparations with his usual critical eye, offering occasional guidance but mostly letting them work it out themselves. On the morning of the examination, the 5 cadets gathered in the simulation center. The room was massive, capable of projecting incredibly realistic holographic environments that could fool every sense. Hundreds of other cadets filled the observation areas. This was the Academy's biggest event, and everyone wanted to watch. Administrator Velcor addressed the assembled students. Today's examination will test your combat skills, tactical thinking, leadership, and most importantly, your ability to persevere when victory seems impossible. Remember, how you face defeat reveals more about your character than how you celebrate victory. The lights dimmed. Maya and her team moved to the center of the simulation chamber. Around them, the environment began to form. They found themselves standing on what appeared to be a space station corridor. Emergency lights flickered. Distant sounds of explosions and weapons fire echoed through the simulated structure. A voice crackled through their communication implants. It was Thexlar, but he was playing a role now, a desperate commander requesting aid. Extraction team, we have a critical situation. This station is falling into the planet's gravity well. Reactors are failing. We have 50 civilians trapped in the lower levels, including younglings from multiple species. You need to reach them and evacuate before the station enters the atmosphere. You have 20 minutes. The simulation timer appeared in Maya's field of vision. 20 minutes. She quickly assessed her team. Sin scanned for the fastest route to the lower levels. Krell, you and Telrock take point. You're our heavy hitters. Jake, rear guard. Watch for threats from behind. Move out. They ran through the corridors as the station seemed to shake around them. The simulation was incredibly detailed. Maya could feel the vibrations through her boots, smell the acrid scent of burning circuits, hear the groan of stressed metal. Her heart raced and she had to remind herself this wasn't real. The first obstacle came quickly. A bulkhead door blocked their path, its controls sparking and non-functional. The timer showed 17 minutes remaining. Telrock, can you force it? Maya asked. The Gorvin examined the door, then shook his rocky head. It's too damaged. We need another route. There is no other route, Sin said, their translation coming through melodic tones. This is the only passage to the lower levels that isn't completely blocked. Maya thought fast. In a real situation, what would she do? She looked at the door, at its frame, at the way it was mounted. Krell, Jake, help me. We're going to create a new route. Using their combined strength, the 3 of them began attacking the wall next to the door. It wasn't elegant, but it worked. The bulkhead was strong, but the walls around it were weaker. They smashed through, creating a gap just large enough to squeeze through. 14 minutes remaining. They continued deeper into the station, and the simulation threw more obstacles at them. A corridor filled with toxic gas forced them to find protective gear. A group of hostile forces, looters taking advantage of the chaos, engaged them in combat. The team fought them off, but it cost them time, and Telrock took a simulated injury that left him limping. 10 minutes remaining. They finally reached the lower levels and found the trapped civilians. 50 holographic beings of various species huddled in a damaged compartment. But there was a problem. The escape route they had planned to use was blocked by a hull breach. There was no way to get everyone out in time. 8 minutes remaining. Maya looked at her team. Krell's mandibles were clicking rapidly, a sign of stress. Sin's glow had dimmed. Telrock was in pain from his injury. Jake's face was pale as he did the math and realized what Maya already knew. They couldn't save everyone. This was the impossible choice. The moment designed to break them. Team leader, status report. Thexelar's voice crackled through the comm. You're running out of time. Maya's mind raced. There had to be a solution. There was always a solution. That was what humans did. They found ways to survive when survival seemed impossible. She looked around the compartment, at the civilians, at her team, at the damaged structure of the station itself. An idea formed. A crazy, dangerous idea that would probably get her failed by the instructors for being reckless. But it might work. Sin, she said quickly. You can manipulate electromagnetic fields, right? Can you create a temporary magnetic seal over that hull breach? Sin's glow brightened. For a short time, yes. But it would exhaust me completely. Do it. Krell, Telrock, start moving civilians through the gap. Jake, help them. I'll stay here and coordinate. What about you? Jake asked. How will you get out? I'll figure it out. Move. Her team hesitated for only a second, then sprang into action. Sin moved to the hull breach and began generating a shimmering field that sealed the gap. It wouldn't last long, but it didn't need to. Krell and Telrock began herding civilians through the damaged corridors, moving as quickly as the diverse group could manage. 5 minutes remaining. Maya helped organize the evacuation, making sure the smallest and most vulnerable went first. She could feel the station shaking more violently now. Parts of the simulation were incredibly realistic. She could almost believe they were actually going to die. 2 minutes remaining. The last civilian evacuated. Sin's field was flickering, nearly exhausted. Jake grabbed Maya's arm. We need to go now. Go! I'm right behind you, Jake ran. Krell and Telrock were already far ahead with the civilians. Sin's field collapsed and the hull breach reopened. Alarms screamed through the compartment. Maya ran for the exit, but a piece of falling debris, perfectly timed by the simulation, crashed down and blocked her path. 1 minute remaining. Maya looked at the obstacle. It was too heavy to move, too large to climb over quickly. The timer was almost at 0. The station was about to enter the atmosphere and burn up. She had saved the civilians, saved her team, but she hadn't saved herself. She could see the observation areas now, could see hundreds of alien faces watching her. This was the test. How would she handle failure? How would she face death, even simulated death? Maya took a breath and straightened her shoulders. If this was how it ended, she would face it with dignity. She activated her comm. Extraction team leader to command. Civilians and team successfully evacuated. I won't make it out in time. Tell Earth that humanity gave everything we had. 30 seconds remaining. Through the comm, she heard Thexelar's voice, but he was no longer playing a role. Cadet Brooks, you have 15 seconds. What do you do? What did she do? Maya looked around the compartment one more time. There was the blocked exit. There was the hull breach, already growing as the station's structure failed. There was the viewport showing the planet below, growing larger as they fell toward it. She made a decision that was completely insane. Maya ran toward the hull breach, 10 seconds remaining. She could hear shouting through the comm, probably the instructors yelling at her to stop. But she didn't stop. She reached the breach, saw the void of space beyond, saw the planet below. She judged the angle, the trajectory, the impossible physics of what she was about to attempt. 5 seconds remaining. Maya jumped through the hull breach. For a moment, she was in open space, falling. The simulation was so realistic she could feel the cold, the pressure change, the fear. Then her hand closed around a piece of debris, part of the station's exterior that had broken away. She used it as leverage, pushed off, adjusted her trajectory toward an escape pod she had spotted earlier, one that was just barely within reach. 0 seconds. The station simulation exploded into flames as it hit the atmosphere. Maya's hands closed around the escape pod's exterior handle. She pulled herself inside just as the shockwave hit. The pod tumbled away from the destruction, its automated systems activating and stabilizing its flight. The simulation ended. The holographic environment dissolved, leaving Maya lying on the floor of